Welcome to a new episode of the Movieslingers starring
Nuan?
and Dinul. I know it's been quite a while since
Yeah.
our last episode. Lot happened.
Yeah. But we're back.
But we're back, yeah. Today we'll be talking about Napoleon, directed by Ridley Scott.
Yes. There's been a lot of stories about the accuracy of this movie, and I find it very amusing how Ridley Scott has chosen to respond to that. But we'll get to that part as well.
What do you think about the film?
As a film, I thought it was entertaining, right? The battles are, I feel like, some of his best work. They look so good. Right? This is what you kind of want from, when you go to a movie theater,
you want to sort of experience it.
Yeah, that epic,
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard of these battles, and Waterloo especially is a name I'm familiar with, but now we kind of get to see it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. And the other part of it is that all the relationship drama and the political stuff, which is played in a very funny way, which I'm guessing it's intentional because it looks like it is. It looks like they're playing it for laughs.
Yeah. But some of it was kind of like factually true, so...
Some of it is true.
Yeah.
Which is very... I mean, it's even more interesting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, actually, the some of the stuff that's true seems weirder than the stuff they made up at times.
Yeah.
Like the part where... Okay, we are getting ahead of ourselves, but the part where he comes back and takes his army, right?
Yeah.
Where he basically walks up to them. They're holding the guns on him, and he asks... He tells them that he misses them and all that, and they put down their guns and they kind of embrace him, right?
Yeah.
Now I don't know if that actual thing happened, but he did come back from exile and take over his army, so they obviously loved him.
Yeah.
Now that's a real thing.
Yeah. He was like Napoleon was known to be quite popular with his own comrades, I guess. His own army.
His army. I mean, we do see him kind of, even though he's putting them through like some terrible stuff.
He's
also taking care of them. Like you see him, or at least he's pretending to.
Yeah.
He's giving, like you see him handing food
and
to people and
also in the battlefield also he is also involved.
So that's one weird thing, right? So somebody has pointed out that he's an artillery officer.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually make sense when you see him doing a cavalry charge. That's probably didn't happen. So that I'm guessing is inaccurate. He probably wouldn't have done that. But he would have been on the front line. Yes. Like when you see him waving to his artillery and
to
attack,
charge,
and that is probably more of what he did. But it does show at one or two points where I think in one of the...
I think in the very beginning, I guess I remember...
Yeah, his horse gets blown up.
Yeah.
In spectacular fashion. Like, oh my God, that thing was so bloody. But later, I think we see him doing a charge like in Russia or somewhere. Like, and like people are like, okay, he probably didn't do that. that didn't happen. I mean, we can't be sure, 100% sure, but because his experience is an artillery officer, it doesn't make sense that he would be on horseback fighting people with a sword.
Also, I think throughout the film, you kind of see him kind of evolve being a kind of lieutenant to a general and then eventually to an emperor.
His ambitious side, they really show that.
They really show that because I think he was you could say Napoleon was always into Roman history. And I think there's all in the film also there were references to Caesar. A lot of references.
Yeah, they say you to the French people, you are the Caesar.
Yeah, you are the Caesar. And I think that was kind of a nice little touch to it. I think because I mean, historically speaking, Napoleon did become emperor after becoming first consul because he wanted to kind of take control of France because well, because after, like you mentioned, after the revolution, France was in an economic crisis. And at the same time, geopolitically, all the other European countries were a bit worried because of the French Revolution. Would this begin?
It would spread.
Over or all over, and the lower class would come after the rich. So that is why the coalition wars actually started, because especially the British didn't like that such a revolution was happening in their own sort of continent. And
see, this is the kind of thing the movie doesn't explain,
which you had to literally
you have to know.
research.
You have to know a few things, right? You have to know a few key figures, who they are, and what they are doing, what their role is. And I feel like if you come in completely blind, you might be a little lost.
That was literally me.
That was you, okay. So I knew a few things. I knew a few things about, like, okay, there's the revolution. And then
I knew those parts, the revolution, and there was someone called Napoleon, but I never really got in depth in that sense. Like,
but I find it interesting that, okay, there is a revolution, but then there's also like a return to kind of people who want to reinstate the monarchy again, right? The royalists are trying to come back. And then, all this other stuff that is, and then I find it very interesting that after they get rid of the kings and the monarchy, they still end up with an emperor, right? I find that really funny, and there's another king as well after that, right? So all of that stuff is pretty interesting, but you have to know a few things, I guess, before you come in.
And also, like, so I think there were 3 coalition wars, 3 of them in which Napoleon won.
Right.
I mean, if you are someone who's into history, I think Napoleon was well popular because of his strategies. He had little, you could call them small groups of armies in which they can move in quickly. I don't know if they really showed that in the film.
Maybe the first one where they attacked Toulon, I think is something like that, where he proposes that, okay, I think you missed a little bit of that, what was going on, right? So the part you missed was where the guy I forgot his name, the guy who's in charge of the army, he comes to Napoleon and says, okay, we have to take this port. And then Napoleon has the idea that you don't have to take the town to get the whole thing. You just have to get the port, get those guns, and attack the ships. So he has that idea. So he actually, you see that part where he proposes, okay, we can do this. And I think that's also happening while the revolution is going on. So we see Napoleon's brother as well. And he comes in and he's sort of giving him the introductions to all the key political people. So there's actually a very cool scene where he comes and and you can see that Napoleon is hungry for power, like he wants to climb the ladder, right? So he expects a promotion if he gets this done. And then we see him go to Toulon, and we actually see him, now I don't know if this is a true thing that he did, was where he goes undercover. He goes in like without his uniform, like with a hood kind of a thing on, and he's checking out what the British defenses are.
Oh, okay.
He goes and then he says, okay, we don't. There's a lot of letters in this movie where people are writing to other people, and we get the narration. So I'm guessing that's based on actual letters, maybe. So there's one letter where he's writing to his brother. He says, we don't have, our resources are terrible here. And
men are suffering.
So he says that we are going to salvage some old discarded guns. We are going to melt it, and we're going to make smaller weapons that can fire. I think those are the mortars they use to fire for those fire shots. So that's a thing that he does. So we see that part, that preparation for it, and then they attack, and that's a really cool scene. I mean, like at night when you see the mortars explode and the ships catch fire, I was like, oh my god, like how, like it looks so real. Like I mean,
it's something out of this world. You don't believe that it could have happened, but then
Yeah, but the filmmakers have done a good job. I think that scene looked really incredible. I don't know what they did. Like, did they use model ships and
explode it,
made
or
them catch
because
fire?
I don't know if they actually use any CGI, because I don't think
There is.
Yeah.
I know they used to extend the armies and stuff.
Maybe, but
make them look bigger
than they are.
But the ship scene looked really cool. Like,
yeah.
wow, how did they do that?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't look fake at all.
So if I remember in the first battle I saw, was it against the Austrians?
That's the British. The British had the ships.
Okay.
So what they do is, they, under cover of darkness, they attack the wall. They climb over, get those guns, and then they also have like smaller mortars that are, I think, very light. So they carry them up there or something, and then from the wall they fire down on the ships, which is like quite brilliant. I mean, if he did that,
Also, I think after that war, we see him come back to France to sort of, I think, celebrate and to give.
And then he's immediately promoted after that scene, and we see that
he's promoted to general. He's
Yeah.
given the iconic hat that everyone knows. But also at the same time, other than his sort of career, I don't know if you could call it a career.
His military
and all his military career, you can sort of see his personal life also.
So because he meets Josephine.
Because I think at that time, if you get married to an older woman, kind of shows that you're from a higher status. He was pretty bad with women.
Yeah, you can see how he talks to them.
The one is like, he's not very approachable.
Like, where she walks up to him, "Why are you staring at me?" And he's like, "I wasn't staring at you." And then he immediately says, "Yes, I was staring at you."
And this is where Joaquin Phoenix's acting comes in place. Like, he plays it perfectly.
He has played that kind of guy before.
He plays it perfectly, which was like so funny.
And he plays it like pretty pathetic. He's like, and like where he says, I'm not a very insecure man or something, and he's being incredibly insecure. And that's the thing I find very funny about the character, the way it's portrayed, is that he will say something, but he's obviously lying. Like, because we saw him do something else like the minute before, right?
Yeah.
So. And the way he writes letters to Josephine, like, tell me that
you love me.
That kind of stuff, right? Like,
so it kind of shows his duality, right? Because like, you have Napoleon as a front who's very strong and very very independent leader, but at the same time you see him very insecure and and also, like, historically wise, yes, his Josephine was quite popular too, because she was sleeping around with a lot of people. Apparently it's historically true. I checked. I just wanted to kind of understand what Napoleon was all about, so I just went through a few documentaries, and I don't know, maybe that also could be the reason why, when he was setting the Napoleon Code, he kind of stripped away a lot of these women's rights at the time, and kind of
they actually don't talk about that,
right? They don't.
That would have been interesting. Or maybe, I don't know, there's still an extended cut supposed to come out, so which is supposed to focus more on Josephine. So let's see what maybe the things that are not clear to us from the movie, maybe they're explained in detail.
Explaining it further.
We'll have to
also,
check it out.
like this, some of you will be wondering, what is this Napoleon Code? So when Napoleon came to power, he set a lot of rules, especially in order to bring in equality, and he was sort of like there was a lot to do with equality, setting proper educational systems, also the metric system.
Right.
is why Europe has a metric system is because of Napoleon system, because he was like a lot of he was always like into science and advancements and all of that. So
and he is there is some part where they show him interested in archaeology.
Yes,
when he's in Egypt, like he comes to check out the mummy, right? Which is kind of again a bit funny, right? His interactions with like people and whatever. It's Go ahead. You're talking about the Napoleon.
So that's why I think even the sort of the army was very loyal to him, and even the French people were loyal to him, because most of the rules kind of like, especially the so-called system changes in France, really advanced France in many ways. Also, he was very what do you call these people who are so into he was more into nationalism. And I think
we do hear him at many times. He talks about how much he cares about France.
Yes.
Yeah. And then interesting thing I noticed was that at the end of the film they show that his last words were France, Army, and Josephine. And I think that's really what the movie does show, those three things that
in general.
And he does seem to show that he does care a lot about his country. Like, for example, like the part where he hears that his wife is having an affair and he decides to come back. So I think historians are making fun of this scene because he probably didn't do that.
Yeah.
But when confronted by the council, when they ask him why you deserted your post, his answer is not that about his wife. His answer is, I have returned to find that we are bankrupt, and he kind of turns it around, right? Like, so that's the answer he gives.
Yeah.
So another thing is like, let's talk about the battles a bit. So I think the second battle, Austerlitz, is like, it looks incredible, right? Where they are fighting in the snow. It looks like, wow, there's so much atmosphere, like, you see the snow, and then,
and also the lake.
Yeah, the lake.
And also you can feel there's a lot of silence. And also that's why I think the tense kind of builds in, because you're wondering, what's happening? Is this like sort of the last battle of Napoleon? Is something going to happen?
And in that scene again, I think we see again he goes spying on the others, right? He's wearing like a hood kind of thing.
Yeah.
He goes alone to kind of
and he's
check out. I wonder whether he actually that's based on actual something that he did. But of course, there is a lot of stuff that's kind of myths that have sprung up around him, and for example, I think a lot of people say that he didn't actually, the whole ambush on the ice probably didn't happen exactly like that, and he didn't fire on the pyramids. That probably didn't happen. But what I like about the movie showing that is that the movie is kind of acknowledging, these are things that we have heard that he has done. Not that it's true. And the reason I'm giving it a pass is because we actually see Napoleon making stuff up. Right? Like, for example, we see the Russians, they set fire to Moscow after losing it. But at the end of the film, when a bunch of these kids, he's talking to some kids, and he asks who set fire to Moscow. And then one of the kids he says, I set fire to Moscow. And then the kid corrects him, no, the Russians did. And you see that he's trying to like
manipulate.
He's trying to like put his own kind of image up, right? He's trying to make himself look cooler than he is. Like when after losing Waterloo, we see him talking to some kids. Right? I thought this was one of the funniest scenes. Now in the trailer, there's a line where he says, I never make mistakes.
Yes.
But something to that effect. And in the trailer, it sounds badass. Right? It sounds like, oh my god,
he's perfect. He's like
perfect.
This.
But in the movie, it's like a very funny scene because he just lost Waterloo. and he's talking to some kids who are like
while he's in prison.
He's a prisoner of the British.
Yeah.
And he talks about he's telling them that battlefield stuff, right?
Yeah,
He's saying that I'm perfect, but the people under me are not perfect.
So
when they make mistakes, but I never do. and they're listening to him.
Yeah,
so,
and these kids are like quite intrigued by Napoleon because of the rumors they've heard about him.
When the Duke guy, Wellington guy comes in and he's like, why are you letting them talk to him? And then the kids wanted to meet him.
Because right? They think of him as a hero. Yeah.
So, and the kids are actually like the officers, I think. They're officers in training. So that's actually like a real thing. So you can see how he's trying to manipulate the minds of people. So I think because of that, I will forgive the movie, like showing him firing on the pyramids or whatever, because he's clearly making stuff up as well. Yeah. But there are some things that I find it difficult to forgive. I think one is that I found out that Josephine actually died before he went on exile.
Oh, okay.
So there's a bit of a difference there's a gap.
Yeah.
Right? So in the film they show he goes into exile and he's there for like a year.
Yeah.
And on the way back, as he's on the way, Josephine is ill.
Yeah.
And the movie kind of tries to make it seem like, there's some tension he has to get back before she dies, right? But that actually didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So she died like a day or two before he left.
Oh, okay.
So his coming back has nothing to do with her. It was all about getting back France and
getting back control,
getting the army and all that.
Yeah.
So I feel like that I find it difficult to forgive because there's a motivational issue there. Because in the film he misses Josephine and France, and he's coming back for multiple reasons.
Exactly. Yeah.
But for real,
but if you watched it like hindsight, I felt like he was coming back for Josephine.
Yeah.
But now since you explained, you're like, okay,
that's not true.
That's not true.
But like, the thing is, you could have still had that scene before he left. You could have just edited it, right? You could have he could have put that scene before he goes to exile and have him come and she's dead and then he goes on exile.
Yeah.
Like it would still be effective. Like he's upset and then the daughter is telling him she died and then like he asks where the letters are or something, but the letters have been given away. So those are the letters I think that he wrote
to her.
So I think maybe that's why he wanted to get it back because
he was like
he was very insecure and all that
about his image and like.
So I wonder whether that's why he was so like he wanted to get it back. So that I have an issue with that scene.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it should have come first. Because there's no reason why.
I also felt the problem with this film was that I don't know, maybe there could have been some explaining on like what was going on because we went from one battle to another and to another and to another and you kind of like lose context on the way. I felt like so because I don't know whom Napoleon is fighting against. Unless someone who knows about Napoleon explains to me, I feel like
there are scenes where he's like he has. Okay, he's talking to the Russian Tsar, Alexander I, right? And there's a scene where they are being friends and they are giving a toast, and he even sort of proposes marriage to his sister. But then we find out, I think I only noticed because I watched the second time, is that he actually ends up marrying the princess of the Austrian guy. But that would be completely lost on you. Like you have to like really pay attention to who he actually. Because I thought he married the Russian one. I completely lost that. Right. So you have to kind of know who these people are, and then they go into another war with Russia, and I was like, okay, what just happened? He was talking to him
I
a
feel
few
like
minutes ago.
They were cutting a lot in that film. There could have been
been a scene that set up why they're at war. I mean, he explains in a letter. He says that. I think he mentions how the Russians are having trade with Britain.
Like for example, like when Napoleon went to Egypt, he went to Egypt to stop the British from coming to India.
Right.
I don't know if
it's not clearly
explained.
He's just sort of there fighting.
Because
we see him fighting the Ottomans or whatever, right?
But and also like when he went to Egypt, he took some scholars with him to sort of understand the history and whatnot. So I don't know. I felt there could have been more explaining on why it happened why he went to Egypt.
Yeah.
I don't think they explained it
show
properly.
Egypt.
Yeah, but they didn't explain it
why it was so important to fight the British. And,
even when the whole coup happened, like the coup happened because that basically what he did. So I was just like kind of going through a lot of documentaries like what the hell is going on, because this film was like too fast, like it just went on and on and on. So he wanted to get control. He wanted to be first consul. So in order to do that, he set up a coup. He said, okay, there is a revolution coming up.
The royalists.
To the royalists. Let's go to this place and let's try to resolve it and whatnot. And instead what he did was he trapped them and then forced them to resign and to give him entirely power. But I felt like that could have been explained a bit more.
I think it needs to set up
a bit more.
Set up the events of what's going on. Like, okay, that scene was funny. Like, I thought that was really good, right? That scene is where he comes in and his brother is trying to explain to the people. I think it's a council, was it?
It was the
so like the parliament kind of
parliament
thing. And he's explaining and they all start they see through it and they're like, oh no, it's your brother is trying to gain control. And then you see at the back he's walking around and he probably shouldn't go in and talk, but he does.
He's like, I can't handle this anymore.
He goes and tries in, and then everyone attacks him, and they all run out.
And also everyone calls him Caesar too. In that moment, if you remember, everyone's like, he's like a Caesar, and then that's where I think that sort of imagery kind of comes in.
And then he falls down the stairs and goes out. And then I love that scene where his brother is like tells the soldiers outside like, oh, they try, they're trying to do, they're trying to take over. And then Napoleon is like, they tried to kill me. And like they tried to kill him.
Also, there is a reason why he became emperor, because Napoleon, I mean, historically at one time he was thinking that if he passed away, he wanted to sort of be consul forever.
Right.
And so in order to do that, he wanted to be an emperor.
Right.
And in order to be an emperor, he brought in the Pope. Because in France, historically wise, when a king is appointed or whatnot, it's a Pope who hands him over the crown. But I mean, historically, he did take the crown by himself and place it.
And that painting is a real painting, right? Like the whole being drawn. So I think so. So there's a lot of good scenes, but I think
the setup,
the setup and the context has to be established a bit better.
Because if you're a first-time viewer like me, who doesn't have a huge knowledge on Napoleon, I think you could easily get lost in this.
And you probably get bored if you can't follow what's happening. So that's an issue.
Also, I don't know, in the film, did they kind of explain where he's from?
They mention he's like the other country, other monarchies, they think of him as a Corsican thug.
So he is from Corsica.
Actually, in the opening, there's a bit of reading. They say he's from Corsica. So they actually, they mention that. And that's actually another reason why they kind of, the movie gives that, I think the Minister of Foreign Affairs is the one who tells him, the other countries, they think of you as a Corsican thug. And so let's make you, instead of just first consul, what do they say? Victorious council.
Yeah, victorious council. Yeah.
Or in other words, king.
Yeah.
So they kind of need to elevate him to the level of Tsar Alexander, and also that they will pay him some respect, I think. That's one thing. And speaking
also, a lot of these countries, you can see in certain scenes in these films, like the British and the Austrian and who else?
The Russians are there.
The Russians, they were always trying to like plan and sort of attack France, because during this whole coalition wars and a lot of these revolution ideas and propaganda was spread throughout Europe, towards the poor people, and
there's a lot of trade issues as well.
Trade
right?
issues as well. So
and there's a lot of stuff like where I remember when he writes a letter of peace to the king, the British king, and the king, I think they completely disregard that. And when the ambassador comes, he's like he's very very upset that the British didn't didn't care about the letter.
Yeah.
And then he makes a comment about their ships. I thought that was very funny because he says, if it's not for your ships that
y'all will be
you would be like in time your manners would be French, like
French.
and even then the British ambassador is like
he has
for such a great man it's a pity that he doesn't have manners.
Good have manners. Yeah.
And the ship thing comes back again, right? Because after he's captured, he talks about how your cooks on your ships are very good. That's probably why your navy is really good. So there's a lot of
I feel like his sort of the arrogance was kind of shown through like Joaquin Phoenix's sort of acting. I think he kind of executed that pretty well.
When he's pointing at the map with the British flag, he keeps hitting the British flag. He's like really annoyed by them. So it's very entertaining in the moment, but
you could say, I don't think it's a biography, it's like a fun flick.
It's kind of, it has that House of Gucci energy. Kind of very heightened, kind of over the top.
Drama and like thriller.
It's drama mixed with like some comedy as well. So, and okay, I completely, I think I went off track earlier when we talked about oscillates, right? We talked about the ice. So I thought that whole sequence, now I don't know if that really happened or not.
Well, it actually happened.
It did?
Yeah.
Right. So the ambush happened on the ice.
Yeah, it happened on the ice,
Right. So I thought that was really cool, like when the cannonballs fall on the ice, you get like this really cool, he gives his underwater shot. Right? And you get the ice,
and you can see blood.
Get the blood coming in, and I was like, "Oh, because to me it looked like the French tricolor." So the water is blue. So I was like, I don't know if that was intentional, but it had that effect.
I think the Austerlitz was with the Austrians, or was it with Russia?
That was both Austria and Russia. They were together. That's why at the end, the Austrian prince comes to meet him, but the Russian guy is not there because he's angry. And then Napoleon very arrogantly kind of says, you should be happy, and I could have taken your entire army prisoner, and he toasts. And so that sequence was really cool. Waterloo, I thought, was the best sequence.
The best shot.
You see the troops moving, and I think that one they kind of explain how the weather was an effect as well.
Yes.
And how
the winter sort of like deserted.
Because he has to wait until the rain clears. But then the other army is on the way. So if they I think he wants to attack before they can combine. So if he think his whole thing at setting it at Waterloo is that he can defeat them separately. But I think the mistake is that they don't realize how fast the other army is actually marching. So they show up too early, and that's why he loses. So that sequence was, I thought, done really well. Like you can understand what's happening.
I think that was perfectly explained.
There's not a lot of dialogue.
You can kind of understand. Because even before that, he kind of strategizes and say, okay, before they meet in this place, we cannot let these two meet. That's like crystal clear for me. But everything else that was happening, I wish there was some sort of explanation.
I guess the battle scenes were a little clearer.
Way more clearer than
the political stuff. I think the political stuff was the problem. I think. Because the battle scenes are I guess Ridley Scott was more interested in
the battles.
He was probably more interested in that. Another interesting thing. So at the end of the film, we see these two girls. and they have this little sword fight.
Yeah.
I think that's a little reference to The Duelists, his
okay.
first film.
Oh, okay.
Where it's about these two guys who are dueling throughout the film. So you should totally check it out, and I would encourage our listeners to also check it out, because that film, Ridley Scott's first film, it takes place parallel to the events of Napoleon.
Oh, okay.
So we hear about some of the battles, we hear about Napoleon. His name is dropped.
Okay.
like it's a Marvel movie or something. But his name is dropped, and there are sequences like, for example, the invasion of Russia. We see a little bit of that. So in that film, it's really good, really, really good. It's a simple film. Just it's about these two guys who are fighting, and totally check it out. And that actually will. I think you should watch both movies. It'll kind of.
Also,
alongside
if you can watch some documentaries on YouTube before watching this, because if you walk in blind like me, you will get confused.
Oh, you can watch it after.
And then like kind of picture things together.
Yeah. There's a lot of I hope the extended version or whatever
kind of explains what the coalition wars were and like why it happened,
and show a bit more of Josephine, what she was thinking as well, like, because we don't get a lot of her. We get a little bit of her letters towards the end, I think.
I think there were 1 or 2 letters
but I feel like there could have been more.
I think that kind of happens after the divorce, right, when they become like,
he asks her to write to him, and so I feel like, and Ridley Scott has said that the other half of the movie is sort of Josephine's half. So so he has said like that there's like another 1.5 hours or whatever stuff there.
No, there's a director's cut.
There's going to be a director's cut coming on Apple Plus or whatever. So it's probably going to be more of her stuff. So I'm guessing that's probably why they cut that stuff out, because they kept it more Napoleon. But maybe that will explain some of some of these things. It'll be interesting to see what she was thinking of him, right? We don't get a lot of that. All we know is that she didn't. I feel like she didn't want to be separated, but she didn't like really, really love him either. Right?
I think she kind of took advantage of the whole royalty and whatnot, and anyways, she was in debt.
And we see very early on that scene where she gets the kid to go and ask for the sword. I'm sure she wanted to meet him. That was an excuse,
I think that's
right?
an excuse. And you can also see, like, in the scene when Napoleon comes to a place, you can see, like, it's all covered in cloth and, you know, like, it's not very clean and, you know, it's dusty. So, because she was a single mother who was in debt. And
she was in prison also.
So
hopefully we'll get more of that. And Vanessa Kirby is really good. I thought she was really good in those scenes. And those scenes again, like where
I liked her in this than most of the Fast and Furious movies she's in it.
She's in one Fast and Furious.
Yeah, Hobbs and Shaw, right?
Oh, that was a horrible movie.
But she was good in Mission Impossible.
Yeah, she's good in Mission Impossible, of course. And I think earlier it was supposed to be Jodie Comer, who was in The Last Duel. But I think she couldn't do this one. So, So she's really good. And those scenes, again, like, I find it really funny now thinking about the trailer again. Because I talked about that scene where he doesn't make mistakes. So another thing the trailer does, it kind of, you know, like, some of the scenes, right? Like, for example, they show like a love scene kind of a thing in the trailer. And it's made to look like a sexy kind of hot-looking scene. The way it's edited, right? But when you see it in the movie it's like funny and pathetic and sad and you know, like and I find that kind of like, okay, like, it's obviously deceptive kind of marketing in a way, because the trailer makes Napoleon look like a badass.
But, he's not. But I think this film kind of shows that he was like a very insecure person. You know,
so that I find that very interesting. So because the trailer obviously wants you to come watch the movie. So it makes it look cool. But when you see it in like, context,
I think with the whole thing with Oppenheimer, I think people are starting to get more interested in these kind of historical figures. Because I think
and actually, like Oppenheimer and a lot of these movies like that came out in the last couple of years was probably why this movie got released in theaters.
Yeah.
Even I'm sure Killers of the Flower Moon
Wouldn't
probably have come out if maybe
it would have gone like maybe straight to DVD
yeah,
or
because
Criterion.
it was a streaming thing.
Yeah.
It would have had a limited release, but not a wide release,
Not a
right?
wide release,
and I think Ridley Scott talks about how it was originally probably just going to be a streaming
thing, but he
but
didn't
the
want
success
to,
of Top Gun Maverick and Avatar, the second one, is probably what convinced the movie theaters, okay, this is probably something people want to go watch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a huge hit, but I think I like the fact that I was able to watch this in a theater.
And also, I like the fact that there are a lot of options now to watch, because a few years back, when you go to a movie theater, you have all the Marvel movies and DC movies, and it's all just and it's not like anything else. Yeah.
Hopefully, the historical epic is not something that's done.
Yeah.
I mean, he is working on Gladiator 2. It's coming.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for a big hit for Ridley Scott, because I feel like
he kind of deserves it.
Yeah, the Last Duel was such an incredible film, and it totally flopped.
Yeah. House of Gucci
it probably wasn't a flop.
Yeah.
But it wasn't
great either.
It was entertaining.
It was a kind of like
it was entertaining. Yeah. But it wasn't a good movie.
Yeah, it wasn't a good movie. Yeah.
I mean, it was a bit
Napoleon,
like Napoleon is a bit better, I would say.
Yeah.
Not perfect.
Yeah.
We talked about the issues, but I'm glad I was able to see it. You know,
to see such a battle scene in a huge screen is something.
It's been a while since you saw something on that scale, right? A battle like that, and it was done really well.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's the man. You know, like, he's the man when it comes to.
Okay, so on Letterboxd, I kind of gave this 3.5.
Yeah. That seems
decent.
Yeah.
But again, I gave it because there were issues in the film.
Yeah.
And
that feels that 3.5 out of 5, right?
Yeah.
That seems perfectly fine, I think.
Yeah. In mine, it's like okay-ish. You know, I don't know if I would. I mean, I would watch it again for fun.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, because I watched it the second time, it did improve, because I was able to follow a few things a little better. I understood, especially some of the things that are explained in the letters. You have to kind of really listen to what he's saying, because he's explaining who he's fighting or whatever. So I think, but you have to pay attention.
I think
it's not done really well.
No, I think since you're speaking about I think if they put the subtitles, maybe it could be. Yeah.
Maybe I feel like it kind of needs a little more setup. Like you said, certain scenes need,
because it just like goes from one battle and then poof, next thing it's something totally different, and you're lost. You're like,
it jumps a bit. It jumps a bit.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's solved in the extended cut. We don't know what will happen. Hoping that'll be good.
So I think that's all we have to speak about Napoleon.
Yes. But it did definitely get me to look up a bit more about the history.
Napoleon.
The history, not just Napoleon, about what's happening in Europe at that time. Because it's very, very interesting. And I think another film, I will just mention it, is Master and Commander, Far Side of the Ocean with Russell Crowe, which is also happening during that time.
I have it on my watch
list. So he's
list.
He's a British captain who's fighting a French ship. So there's a lot of Napoleon-ish. Napoleon doesn't show up.
Also, I think in Assassin's Creed Unity.
Assassin's Creed Unity. The villain is Robespierre, I think.
So that's why I remember. I think you kind of come across Napoleon too, right?
Yes, you do. You do. You run across him. Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of another reason. I mean, obviously, Assassin's Creed is not accurate. But you do. It's also another thing that kind of gets you interested in checking up on
the French Revolution.
So I would actually recommend you go watch this in a theater if you can.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty cool. I think even with its problems, I think
it's a fun, interesting film to watch.
Yeah.
It is flawed, but
more funnier than I expected. The battle scenes are really, really
I think this kind of film is a good sort of starting point for you to to get more interested in the French Revolution and sort of what happened afterwards. Yeah.
And then watch The Duelists, which is actually a much better film. Even though it's his first film, it's a much better one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would like to say thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes.
And
the year is almost over now, right?
I think we should maybe do an episode where we kind of give our rankings of our the films we watched this year.
Ranking top 10 favorites
and top 10 worst.
Oh yeah. Oh, we can do 2 lists. I have a feeling the worst list will be more fun than the good list,
Yeah.
But we have 2. I think we have 2 more films coming out. Wonka.
Yeah.
I think Wonka just came out.
Yeah.
And the reviews are good.
Oh, I heard it got.
But we shouldn't be surprised. It's the Paddington guy. I don't know why everyone is like surprised that the reviews are good. Like, it's the Paddington guy.
The guy.
He's a good director.
Yeah, he's a good director.
And the other one is Aquaman.
Aquaman.
Which I am kind of curious to see how bad it is. So I'm
after watching The Flash, I'm a bit worried about Aquaman, but
no, don't be worried. It's the last one. It's not. For me, there are no stakes because the success of this movie doesn't mean anything at all at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of like the end of it all, right?
End of it. So it's getting made, and I'm kind of curious. I like Jason Momoa, and I like Patrick Wilson, right?
Patrick Wilson, yeah.
And who's the other guy?
Yeah. God damn it.
I forgot his name.
Wait, is who's
Dr. Manhattan?
No. Amber
Heard.
Amber Heard, yeah. She's in this, right?
In a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
It's a bit controversial, but anyway. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you'll hear more from us because anyways the year is going to end soon, so we have to talk about our favorite films this year.
Yes.
And also the films we didn't enjoy this year.
Yeah, obviously.
Some of those films wouldn't have sort of shown. Maybe they were films we didn't talk about. They could also be in these lists. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.